Hi, this is Master KANTBEI. Welcome to this new replay commentary. Today we got a guest we have received already many times over this channel, and I do like to do a lot of replays with him, as you probably guessed it. So you can now present yourself.
Hey everyone, it's KANTBEI. I'm a fairly high-level Fog player, somewhere between like top 4 or top 6 in the global league ratings at any given time. So, fairly high up there. This is a fairly interesting map we're playing. Vandalism is not your typical Fog map. Not just because like you start with two landers and like the seas, um, but also because like there's a lot of heavy terrain that normally in fog you don't see. So this is gonna be an interesting game.
So, why did you pick Andy?
Um, your longer time viewers may know this, but like Andy is just my comfort pick. If I'm not too sure how a map will play, I will generally just go Andy because it feels pretty good to win without ever having to like attack. Like if I don't know how to do anything right, like I don't know how to attack on the map, I can just wait for you to suicide into me. Doesn't always work right, but it's an easier game plan. Um, the other thing is like I saw two airports. Two airports generally means I go Andy. I was pretty sure. I think Kindle was banned here. She might have some ideas with like these two center cities. Um, Lash has some ideas because like all the heavy terrain here in the middle. But I also feel like the airport matters too much in the middle, and it's gonna be a huge copter versus copter fight. In which case Andy is king. Also, whenever Andy's good, like Drake's kind of bad, especially when the reason Andy's good is like double airport. Rachel's probably bad because like there are three separate fronts. It's not very easy to just death ball in one area without losing the other two fronts pretty hard. So yes, she can win one area, but she might lose everywhere else, and like the opponent can play around it because like how the map is situated. It's also not very easy to like move the army around Rachel has. So she basically can only play for middle and hope to like HQ race you and hope like that works, and then she has no late game plan here. So I think it's like Andy or Lash are probably the best picks at tier 3.
What about Drake?
Yeah, so Drake doesn't work. Again, like the airport in the center is too strong. It's just gonna be a huge copter fight, which Drake will always lose. Um, you can get like AA to the center, but tanks and AA are really hard to come by in the center. If your AA dies as Drake, I think you basically lose the game because you lose middle, you lose all these cities. Which, by the way, if you lose all these cities, it's equivalent to winning on both sides. That's how good center is here. You just don't get the towers, of course, but income-wise, it's fine. The other advantage center has here is it threatens the HQ, and then it's very easy for the two base side here and the center to collapse on the HQ as well as the base. And there are so many targets here which can end the game. Like if you lose the center airport, your opponent takes it, you lose the game. Obviously, if they take the HQ, you lose. If they take the port, you lose. If this base dies, you lose. If they take this airport, this base dies, so you lose. So there's so many targets in this area, which playing for center gives you ideas.
This is good. Can I keep going?
Alright, so we'll start with our opening. Infantry builds, fairly normal, and then I immediately do something super weird. I move both landers straight south.
Why?
Um, so basically, the idea here is that one of these landers is more valuable than the other. Which one is it, right? This lander on the 2-base side is way more important than your lander here, because it's on the 1-base side. And same is true, but flip on the other side, right? So my idea, we get this lander here, on this tile, stop your lander from ever moving out, and then it becomes really, really slow for your 2-base to hit this area. Like, there are some openings here when the landers don't block each other. Like, you can just get a fast recon, fast artillery, drop them in one of these areas, and suddenly you're threatening everything here. You're threatening the tower. You're threatening to take all these cities. This is all defended. You can also take the lander here, drop the units here, and then it saves you so much time from traveling. So if I can get that block off, right, I feel like it slows down your tempo a lot, and that's good for me. Because that gives me initiative, right? Like, if you don't mirror the block on the other side, I'm being able to, like, launch all these vehicle timings so much faster than you can, which means I will win the damage race. Okay. Next turn, I cap the city instead of going for the base immediately. This is again just to, like, increase our tactical options or our strategic options. From this position, I can capture this base anyway next turn if I want to. I don't commit to any action right now. In this map, I don't think there's really a base skip opening. This base is too important, unlike Dragons in the Dark. This base is in charge of capturing this. This will head up to capturing this. Everything on the left side of the center here, this base is supposed to capture. This base is also in charge of, like, supplying vehicles because of the lander timing. So this base is just way too important to leave uncaptured immediately. So while this increases our tactical options, in the end, like, I think you should always capture the neutral base on this map. But it's just a nice habit to get into. There's also a reason why I leave this lander in the center. So because I know, like, it's really interesting to, like, block off the lander here. If I leave my lander in the center, I get a lot of warning if you're trying the same strat, because, like, if I view the replay, I will know if your lander passes by me, and then I can just run back and block this spot before you can, and then our two landers are kind of just staring each other off. So you capture a base, capture the city. Again, not moving your landers. I think you just never played on this map, probably.
No, I did. I actually played a lot, but I use my ladders much later in the game. Usually, I use them to front shift, and I use them to ferry tanks and units I want later on in the game.
Right. Okay, so you just never ran into, like, this kind of cheesy opening where you get blocked off.
I've never seen that opening. That's why I was shocked when I realized you did that.
You do some fairly interesting captures here. I mean, fairly standard. Goes to the port. Not sure about that one.
Me neither.
But I guess it's fine. Is your idea here, like, to boost the infantry one time and then capture this airport really fast, something like that? Or we'll see.
I really don't know. I just like my ports.
Tier 3 and I guess Tier 4 are kind of like normal looking games here. In Tier 1, Javier is a very common pick. So, like, what will usually happen in Tier 1, the first infantry ever goes straight to the tower.
I know.
If you don't do that, yeah, like, a turn 3 recon will stop, like, the second infantry, and I think a turn 2 recon stops the second infantry, though. A turn 3 recon stops the third. So, like, as Javier, don't get the tower, you're dead.
When it's tier 1, I pick Javier and I cheese my opponent tower. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I do the exact same thing. Like, if your opponent doesn't respond correctly, and, like, they don't know the matchup and, like, how vulnerable towers are, it's a super easy matchup to lose, right? Like, if you lose both towers as Javier, right, you're a tier 4 CO. Or worse, like, Javier with no towers is like a tier 5 CO, barely viable, even against a Grim. And then you're fighting someone who is like a tier 0 CO, like someone who could arguably beat KANTBEI or Hachi all in, right? So, like, it's just, you can just resign at that point. There's no way you win. It's just so miserable. And then I go for recon here. Yeah. Sometimes versus Javier, I'll do a D2 recon with a base skip to, like, try to cheese the tower, but it's kind of risky because if it doesn't pay out, then the economic damage to yourself is really, really harsh. But, you know, then again, you might just win, like, day 6, so it's kind of like a risk reward thing. Do it, do it as you think you should. And then still normal captures. You go for the port, so your lander moves off again. Kind of just wasting fuel, but it's not really super relevant.
And now I realize you were cheesing that towel away. So just look what I do as a response.
You build a tank and then
I'm dumb. I think it's later on I realized I should have bought in artillery. Yeah, this is actually what I will be doing.
um one thing to note, the infantry that was here for you, I think should capture the airport instead of like the city. I do the same thing because I didn't know better at the time. But what I started to realize is like if you capture this airport and then go here, the backup infantry that you built, this one, actually doesn't have that much to do. So this infantry can probably go for this city. The other thing it can do is probably go for the tower, which I guess is also fun. Um, but in that case, I think it's still better to like do this chain first because like the infantry after this one can then secure the city fairly easily. It's not really contested. This one can get contested with like a fast recon. So that's just like a minor optimization thing in the opening. To your point about the artillery, that is the correct response. My response here, whenever I get blocked, like I let this happen, is I build an artillery here immediately. The turn after, you put the artillery here, or like somewhere here, right, that can hit it. You build a second artillery
That's
on
what
this
I did.
base, right? And
I
then the
did.
turn after, you base skip to kill the lander. You use both artilleries to kill the lander. You never want to hit the lander just once and not kill it, right? That number one, I'm Andy. It's free charge. Number two, like a lander at 1 HP or at 10 HP is the same thing. It still does its job. So you want to kill the lander to punish this play. And like a base skip in that scenario is kind of fine because it frees up your lander from doing things and like helps accelerate things. And then like the turn after, like the two artillery can load into the lander and go somewhere. So like it doesn't slow down your opening to kill this lander with two artilleries and the base skip. So guys, if like that ever happens to you, remember double artillery base skip is the answer. If your opponent doesn't know better, um, then they just lose the lander and it feels really nice. It feels like you punished them, even though it's maybe a bit questionable if like this was a real punish, you know. Uh, all right, still going for normal captures for me. I'm starting to head for the tower because I understand like if I don't get this tower, I think this is like the latest time you can do, and then it's pretty difficult to get this tower unless like you're a Sammy with a mech. On your turn, again normal captures. This is all normal. You're also going for a tower, so good recognition there that the tower needs to be taken earlier, sooner rather than later. Again, captures, loading an infantry in, and then I'm starting to ferry infantry on this side. So my idea here is that I see with the recon, this is still not yet taken. So my recon and infantry, my infantry can begin pressuring this tower. My recon can block for it, assuming you didn't build a tank. If you do try to go for it, they can do a 2-hit KO, preserving my HP. So like, if I deny your tower as Andy, it's always really good. We've discussed before in the past how like Andy's whole gimmick is he needs to keep his units alive so that his superpower can get value. Your opponent having less attack directly helps that game plan because it means that their ability to kill your units goes down to luck rolls. So like in the past, like you might be losing a unit for sure every time a certain engagement happens. Without the tower, that's no longer the case. So denying a tower always really good as Andy. Even if like both towers will neutral, I think Andy's happier than any CO. And then just normal captures, building a tank here now. I was kind of expecting a fast recon from you as well, so I wanted a tank to be able to like ward it off. Okay, so this is a slight inaccuracy by you. This infantry should have went straight across and tried to get this tower. Um, Basically, like if you land the infantry here, you've given up on this tower entirely. Like I don't think there's any reasonable timing by your opponent where you're allowed to take this tower if you don't move here this turn. Like against a tank opening, this will no longer work because you're a turn slower. Against a recon day 3, like obviously it doesn't work anymore, but you didn't know that at the time. I don't really like this move either. This infantry should be going here to get the airport, and then this infantry should be heading to the center immediately, I think.
Okay.
Basically, like, this infantry isn't able to capture this anyway. Like, infantry from here will be able to get that pretty easily. Like, one trick I do is, like, if you put the lander here, load an infantry and unload, then the next turn the infantry is here and then it goes here, right? So, like, it gets there pretty fast. This isn't any faster, really. So what does this infantry do? Knowing that this is secured by these guys, this infantry should go for this airport. And knowing that, what should this infantry do? Only thing left is go for the center, because this city is being taken by this infantry, right? So, like, once you're able to, like, think through um what every infantry should be doing, and, like, what is the thing that only they can do, then, like, the opening becomes kind of simple and, like, very straightforward to think about, right? Like, okay, because a lot of infantry can capture this city, like, I have two choices. What can this infantry do if it's not taking this one? It can go for this. Can this infantry do something else? Not really, because your lander blocked. So that's really the only thing you can do with it, right? And then since we now know what this and this does, then we know what this does. So that's just like a systematic way to think about how you should go about your capture order to, like, get the most money in Advance Wars, because money is what you need to win games. Oops. Let's go to turn 7. Okay. I was really scared at this point of a recon, which is why I did this base. I broke my capture here, so, like, my idea is I want to capture all 3 of these at the same time. We probably only have 1 recon, if at all. Obviously, there was none in this game. But the idea is the recon will deny 1 capture, the tank and the infantry will probably kill it, and then I get the other 2 captures safely. So either I lose a tower or I get both. I get 2k income, which is okay for me. And then income-wise, it basically amounts to the same thing if I capture this airport first and go for this, or take both at the same turn, like what I did here. I'm obviously going to be down like 1k in the next turn, but I will be up 1k the turn after because I take this turn faster. So at the end of the day, like, it's the same amount of total income. So as long as, like, you don't have any timings that break vehicle wise, it's fine. And then practicing what I preach, right? Like, I do the exact same thing I described to you. Infantry goes for this airport. Infantry here goes for the center. This is captured by this. I don't really have anything in the center at the moment, but that's only because I'm using my lander in a more efficient way to ferry captures on the 2 base side. So this is okay. But if your, like, lander is stuck, then this is basically what you should be doing.
I do
And
like your
then
approach. I like your approach a lot because you see, I did in the past a game with Cynical in this map, and we did a replay commentary of it. It's not out yet, but by the time this video we are doing right now is done and uploaded, I think my video with Cynical will be uploaded, but it's not out yet. Anyway, basically what happened is we did a game in this map and we did the replay, and I did not learn as much as right now, despite having like similar lengths, if we can call it that way.
I mean, I think that's just down to, like, maybe some of the stuff that he does as a, weaker player. Like, obviously he's not highly rated as I am. He might not understand some of the things that he's doing, which help him win. For me, like, I got as good as I am not because, like, I was naturally gifted at Advance Wars. Like, I was stuck in 900 to 1000 for like 100 global league games, and I was stuck in 1100 for another 100 games. So, like, everything I'm telling you guys right now, right, is like lessons that I learned after playing the game so many times, and then trying to, like, find a systematic way to understand the game and improve my chances of winning.
This is
Um,
why you are good and you have very strong wisdom, and this is why I like having you, because I learn a lot with you. Thing with you I learned the most. With Djus as well, but Djus is not as willing as you to come back, but you are always willing to come back, so I did learn a lot from you. Thank you very much.
I'm glad to hear that, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's the whole point. I feel, like, as long as people are learning stuff from these games, like, I'm always happy to, like, do them. Um, Another curious thing here is like the mech build for me. People who like visit the Discord might hear people say a lot like mechs are shit. Don't build them ever. This is like one of those few maps where mechs are okay. The
I
reason why I say that,
I laugh
yeah,
because I'm one of them. My starts from
so the reason why mechs are good here, so many mountains, right? Like mech on the mountain is really hard to kill. Second thing, starting lander, which means the mech's problem, which is like it's so slow to get to the front. Not the case anymore, right? Like the mech can get to the front about as fast as any infantry or tank or like recon or whatever because of the lander, and then it can just sit on mountains and like scare away tanks whenever taking hits. And then you can build so many more mechs than you can build tanks. That it's easy to like flood the center with like a bunch of mechs, like 3-4 mechs in the center, really hard to fight into. And then that can be like a way for you to push your way into the center and like win it, and then from there win the game. So the other reason is like you can't just tank spam on this map. It's really hard because like there's so many things you want to build in this opening phase. You want artillery because like the artillery are amazing. There's so much terrain that can abuse it. If you ever want to kill the one base, you need artillery, right?
yeah.
There's so much terrain in the center for artillery to hide in, and like for like infantry to wall for them to like go slow push. You want recons for vision because you need to know where your opponent's going on this map. You need anti-airs very fast because copter spam in the center is going to be really good. And then like once these are taken, you're gonna be building a copter almost every turn. So like that's even less money for like tanks, right? And then you also need like tanks to answer AA. You need like infantry builds, obviously, like infantry are always necessary. So there's so much. Yes, it's a high income map, but it's also a map that requires so many different units from you in the early game that mechs suddenly find a place because they can be your like answer to an AA if you can't afford tanks. Like, and you're not gonna be able to afford that many tanks. So that's the reason why I say mechs are good on this map. Especially as Sammy. Sammy is really good here. It's good that they finally moved her to out of tier 3 into tier 2. In the past, whenever she was just tier 3 here, I'd always pick her and win. She's just too good in tier 3. And this is like maybe the first time I'm saying that Sammy is tier 2. Because in any other fog map, she is tier 3 or tier 4, right? But
Yeah.
this map, she's really strong.
She's at the right place too. She's
Okay, so you finally move your lander. You don't base skip here with like hitting my lander, but that's fine because like you want to kill this without scaring it off. So this is the correct play. Normal captures. I mean, this is about okay as you can make it. Not counting the fact like you already had some inefficiency on like the infantry order, which we talked about earlier. I'm not too sure about this recon build versus the infantry build. I think maybe I do recon here, infantry here, unless like this recon is heading towards the center. But generally, I feel like after you kill this lander, you want to move the lander out right away. But
yeah, that's why about the recon. That's to ferry the recon with the lander.
okay. I mean, I guess it's fine because like the artillery won't be able to move into like the lander the turn they kill this enemy, so maybe it's fine. I just usually prefer to like use my first lander movement if it's stuck. With like I wait the turn after for like the double artillery and I move it either here or here, depending on where I think they're better. So turn 8, we do a bunch of captures. Again, AA is heading towards the middle immediately, so like this is just me recognizing through map experience that once these airports are up, there's going to be copters every turn in the center. Like it's pretty hard to play the center without copters. So like I want that A in place by the time these first copter fights are out. Maybe it catches you off guard, right? And if
Yeah.
I win the first copter exchanges decisively, again like that makes it very easy for me to win the center and then win the game by threatening the HQ, threatening this entire area like we talked about earlier. I'm pretty happy that I got my tower and like I'm effectively denying yours for quite a while. I already have like this artillery here in place to like help further secure that position and make sure that you can get it in the long term. So we're starting to wall up.
Going.
Okay. I build another mech here. Again, mechs are good on this map. The idea with mechs on the 1 base side is like they're gonna help secure this tower and like make it really hard for your opponent to take it. Your mechs just sit on the mountains for like a really long time, and they'll just be able to like, if you park a tank here, for example, and then a mech behind it, they'll need like at least 3 tanks to be able to like convincingly take this tower. It's really hard. And then I move my lander back, so kind of like screwing with your entire plan. Um, I had no idea you actually went for the artillery opening to like counter my lander. This is purely by luck, but I was kind of expecting like the lander would have died already, and like the fact that I didn't kind of told me like, okay, you're probably not gonna go for it anyway, so I should just leave. Um, Obviously that wasn't the case, but I think like I was counting turns here, and like I knew I had this tower and I denied yours, so like I wanted to put an artillery somewhere here with my lander, and like I was counting turns and I realized like if I pull it out this turn and I build an artillery next turn, I have just enough tempo to, like, it just works out like the lander ends up here the moment I build the artillery, and then the turn afterwards the artillery can load and unload. So like it was just like an efficient way of movement. And I had planned that out like the turn I moved it away. So that's kind of like why you want to know like what you're gonna do in the future, right? So like you know what moves to do now, and like part of like knowing what to do in the future is just like understanding what strategic ideas you have and which one of them you want to pursue. So for me, like my strategic idea was initially take my tower, deny yours, and then I'll win in the late game anyway because I'm Andy. I'm the better late game CO. And if you don't have your tower, it's hard for you to kill my units. So Andy's SCOP gets infinitely better. So because I moved my lander away, you finally were able to use your lander at last. It's free. um, Still not able to capture your tower really. You're moving a tank to the center. Okay, this is interesting. Fairly good idea. I've seen this before. Like turbo or recon or a tank from here using the lander towards the center. I think like this is generally what you want to do with this lander if you're not blocking. Both are I think viable. I just like blocking because it makes my opponent panic, and when they panic, they make mistakes. So, but yeah, like you're playing this lander side correctly. Moving your AA. Oh no, you built an AA. Move your artillery out, and since we are starting to amass at the center, all of that is reasonable.
I bought two anti-air because by experience I know battle copter are really strong in this map.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Like I've told you before not to build too many anti-airs like in previous games, right? But this is the one map I think like 2 8 right away is pretty good. Like I will generally go like 3 AAs and 3 tanks or something like that. Like sometimes I might have more AAs than tanks in the game. Because you need like 2 anti-air in the center if you want to push. 1 AA is too vulnerable to like getting sniped, and then you'll never get to kill this airport. So like your ability to threaten here is very weak with just 1 AA. You also need like an AA on one of the fronts you're playing at, probably this front if you decide to play, again because like the airport. So like your early AAs are fairly important. And then yeah, I bring an anti-air here because like I know there's an airport, so like I want to be prepared to like continue denying this side. We move the tank out. We are moving the mech, and then yep, we see the artillery come out. We see another mech, and then finally a tank.
The first one
Why the
you explained it, but why a second one?
So basically, I think like if you count the moves between like a mech and an infantry, it takes a same amount of time for the mech to reach this area as an infantry. So like it's just like an additional anti-tank measure, especially since I have no tanks in this area yet. The other idea is like the mech can go here and then load into the lander the next turn when it reaches back here, right? So like then I can just move it either to the center or here. So like again, the mobility issue of the mech is still solved. This tank, I think I wanted to send it center, which is why I wanted it closer here. And since the lander moved away this turn, I can build a mech from this base on the turn and still make it into the lander in time without disrupting any tempo. So it's just an efficiency thing. I'm actually not sure why I sent that mech this game. Oh, I think we skipped your turn. Hold on. Okay. Recon forward, inching your infantry forward, parking artillery. I think this is a bit too scared. I would say you can safely take this hit with the recon, and then like an infantry, and then put the artillery behind them to like zone everything out. I think it's fairly rare that your opponent will have enough vehicles here, and like you actually knew this. You already saw this tank here on the right side, I'm pretty sure. You already see like my artillery and my recon from earlier turns. So like you know there's at least 3 vehicles not in the center that can't get there the next turn to retaliate. So like even if I have a tank here, like 1 artillery and like a bunch of infantry and recon should be able to like scare it off from doing anything. So I think that was a hit you could have taken that you didn't take. Okay, you leave the AA here instead of like moving it out. I guess your idea is like you want to load the tank as well and then unload twice here. In
This was
general,
the idea, I think.
I would still unload it. The thing is, like, even if you unload from here in the next turn, tempo wise, like it's the same. Like unloading this turn is, I think, actually slightly better tempo wise than if you unload somewhere here the next turn. The only advantage this has tempo wise is for the vehicle which loads and then you move out immediately. That actually gets you farther with that vehicle. But for the first vehicle you load into, if you don't move out immediately, you can just unload onto this tile and then you can move normally, and it'll get there about the same time, if not faster. So like all of these small incremental things might not sound like much, but they're actually like the difference between why some players win day 15 like I do and why some players play to day 30 and it feels like no one's won yet. So like having all those vehicles like 1 tile slightly off makes the difference between getting like that copter kill or not, which leads to like just having a chain reaction or like getting that tempo going where you start winning more and more things because you won the first trade. Here you finally build a copter and a tank. I guess you're finally starting to like contest this area against me. Fairly good, if a bit late. I'm not sure if like you realize at this point, but because you understood like I'm kind of split up between all 3 fronts. Like you're seeing stuff here, here, and here. Like you're recognizing like you can probably overwhelm me in some areas, so like you're pushing on all sides, or you're preparing to push on all sides, which is the correct play.
It's not really good what I'm doing, but at the time I didn't know what to do.
Okay, so here I see your infantry. I take a hit, and then I begin like just keeping my artillery safe. This is kind of risky keeping the AA here because if you have a tank, you can just hit it, right? If you have 2 tanks, you can hit it, and then maybe if your copter goes unanswered, and then this, like if this AA dies, basically this entire everything I'm doing here is dead. I can't do anything anymore without AA. Copters will just keep coming out and kill everything I have. So this is slightly risky, but I felt like I had to do it. Because if you had only 1 tank, then it's still fine. Like the artillery will kill it, and then the AA will go down to like 5 HP, 7 HP after the heal, and then can still do its job to kill copters. So it would be kind of fine at the end if there was 1 tank. Very risky if there are 2. And then here I just start dropping copters in the middle. I would have my AA ready to like securing it against anything. My mech is protecting these 2 infantry, so it's only this infantry that's kind of vulnerable. But then the copter can actually respond to that if you don't have an AA. So on your turn, you go for the copter hit, Because I showed my AA here, you recognize that this can't reach, so it's a safe hit for you. Immediately drop another copter. I guess your idea here is like you want to hit my AA at some point with a tank and then use copters to win this front, which is a good idea. It's what I would do in your position. What else do you do? Just moving your units around. Okay, your AA is now here. So again, like you unload the A here, the last turn could have been like here or here, which is more centralized, a bit safer. And like since you didn't end up moving the tank here anyway, then keeping it on the ladder was pointless. Okay, and then you're just going for a bunch of attacks now. You're taking every first hit you see. Probably thinking like you have more stuff in the center than I do because you see so much stuff here, and you know I have some stuff here. So again, just trying to see where you can put pressure. Pretty good play. Maybe the one issue I see with this attack is like because the AA is still kind of backwards, like it's too far to cover a lot of these things on the right side. My copter is gonna get a bunch of free hits the next turn, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, turn 11. What do I do here? Okay, so the recon and the mech again, really good use of the lander, keeping. Okay, moving more stuff into the center. So like now that I have two mechs here and the recon, I can begin to like feel a bit safe here against tanks or AA or whatever because the mechs can start guarding each other. They can also like hit two vehicles, so it's very hard to overpower a mech now. There are also like enough infantry to make it really hard to engage into them. And then obviously we also have the tank coming soon. Fairly risky of me to like use the AA to attack. I don't know what you have in this area. I was kind of thinking like maybe you don't have any vehicles because like I see so much stuff here and here, but that wasn't the case. So like this AA I think ends up dying, which is a pretty big mistake. And then just walling up. So like I want to prevent your tank from hitting my AA from the silo tile because that's the difference between 130 attack and just 100 attack from the road. Pretty significant. I start trying to capture your tower because why not? And then I just go for a bunch of hits here, just reducing all your infantry. So the reason why this exchange I thought was good, I recognize you have a tank already. I see you have so much infantry and units in the center, and I know that you have some stuff on the right side. So like, if I kill all your infantry here, it doesn't matter if I lose the fight in the end. If you don't have any infantry, you exert no pressure, and therefore I can abandon this side, and then you have a bunch of vehicles looking at an empty field, doing nothing for several turns, and then until like you can get infantry there. So like that's why I was okay like killing all your infantry and hoping for the best there. On your turn, you try to interrupt my tower capture, pretty good. I don't like this one so much. I think I would have focused taking out my AA immediately, and then like maybe tank and copter can kill the AA, and then like your two copters are free to kill all these units. Yes, the artillery might be able to hit back, but then it dies, so like chances are I have to pull back. And like this entire front just collapses this turn if you do that move order.
This is what I was afraid of, but after what you just say and after watching the replay, I totally agree with you. I did the wrong thing and I should have taken out the anti-air, but at the moment I thought that was my best option.
Yeah, fairly reasonable to like not realize it in the heat of the moment. We're playing this game pretty fast. Like I think we were using almost live timings. We didn't have that much time in between to like think. It's just something to keep in mind for like future games. Okay, you're beginning to like maneuver on the right side as well to like begin taking a fight there. Reasonable. In the center, we're all kind of just smashing things into each other and hoping someone wins. And now like my deck already gets value, gets a killer recon, pretty good. I begin capping again. And then I do like kind of maybe not the best formation. I'm not sure if like this actually works out. I think if you commit everything, I still die. I just didn't realize that you had two tanks at this point.
I was too scared. I'm scared by you. Just being yourself intimidate me because you're good.
Okay. Important thing to note here why I don't go for this capture instead of like hitting. I kind of recognize at this point, because we have so many units, any capture at this point is going to be really hard to pull off. Better is I just try to do as much damage as I can to your army, and if I win the fight, then I take all these cities anyway. If I lose the fight, I lose all these cities anyway. So taking the city now doesn't matter. What's more important is like whittling down your army so that I win the fight. And then we start seeing that, like I hit your AA, I hit your tank, I hit your infantry, and it's kind of like the similar idea playing out in the center as what was you could have done here, right? Like what I described. Like I'm okay taking these fights here with my copter, even though you have an anti-air, because I'm weakening your anti-air. Even though it can still hit my copter, it's no longer a KO. So for Andy, that's really good, right? Like for obvious reasons, his power gets on you. But even as another CO, like this is fine because you can reinforce copters to the center far faster than AA can reinforce into the center. And like it's possible to like overrun the front before the secondary AA can arrive. Like if you don't have an AA already backing this army up this turn, this attack potentially collapses your entire army. And I think this is what happens.
Yeah, at that point I realized I lost because I was losing the center, and the center was basically my endgame plan.
I don't think it's quite lost yet. It's definitely like hard to come back because like the CO choice, you don't really want to lose the early fight.
Yeah.
But basically, like you needed to pressure this area as well. The moment that you realize you can't pressure here, your lander should be ferrying all of your vehicles to this side and then just leaving infantry to like stare at my infantry so that I can't make any headway, and then that's still fine. But then like if you think your plan is you win center and you win, then most of your vehicles should be committing to that area. Um anyway, you move your tank forward this way, maybe fine. I feel like I would have preferred the tank in the middle. Like, if you feel like you're losing, then you need to reinforce this side. This side, I'm just capturing anyway. You're not gonna deny anything. Also, like you could have blocked for this infantry with like this tank, and then this tank could have unloaded here. Maybe like helped you win the fight here. Injuring a copter, fairly okay. Moving your copters towards the center, that's fine. But your problem now in the center is like you're running out of healthy infantry. So bringing only like the recon is maybe not the best move. Like this infantry could have been here if you loaded it, although it doesn't make that big of a difference, I guess. But yeah, I think like you could have used this lander a bit better. Like maybe a turn ago you needed to like have an infantry here, or maybe you just started ferrying units from this side to this side. But this entire fight here is already kind of won for me, not because like I've already won the fight on a vehicle level, but because I've injured or killed most of your infantry. Even if you do win, you're not going to be able to take cities, and the whole point of winning middle is to take cities. So then the sides become important. You're still amassing a lot of units on the right side that aren't doing anything. I think you're playing way too scared there. Like, compare how many units I've committed here to how many you've committed build-wise, and you'll realize like you have a lot of units staring down at very little. It's kind of the same thing here, right? Like I have very few units here, like compared to you, and you're still just letting me get away with this kind of thing. So you need to be able to like recognize and punish that most of my things are in the center, so you can attack both sides pretty safely. Okay, my mechs are partying. Oops, error. Okay, we bring another AA to the center immediately. Again, like recognizing that the center is a big copter fight. I want that anti-air so that I can kill your copter easily. and then we just start cleaning up. That's how we do it.
The army is collapsing.
Yeah. So this is why I said earlier, right? Like why I was okay with this fight in the middle that was developing, because like the moment I hit your AA and like you don't have a backup, it's very easy to get run over with like mass copters, which is like what ends up happening. Like obviously like the mechs played a part, the recon played a part, the artillery played a part. But that's just because like I understood the composition I needed better. But you know, this fight that happened center could have been what you were doing to me a few turns ago, in on the left side. And again, just constantly pumping out copters. Like every turn, if you're not building a copter in this map, you better be saving up for fighter in the center. Like I honestly believe those are the only two legitimate builds. Unfortunate that the 1 HP hero copter didn't survive, but you know, it is what it is. And then that copter dies, but then I have superpower, so the rest of my units are gonna start partying even harder the next turn. Um, I think maybe you should have tried to play for like an SCOP this turn, but it's hard to see like where you could have gotten extra attacks to get it. So maybe this is fine.
I made a dead ball on the right because I wanted to use my super on capturing buildings, and I wanted to have a good super at least to win the right front. As you can see it, I have some kind of dead ball, and that's why I held my super, because I didn't feel the need to use it earlier. And I also think Lash super is not any super. It's really hard to use it properly and have good value with it. It's the hardest super to use outside of Eagle, I believe, but that's just my take. Um, I like to hold it until I realize I can do something good with it.
Yeah, that's the correct way to play Lash. Lash's SCOP is not like some massive game changer anyway, so like you want to milk value out of it. So yeah, this is not objectionable. I just felt like maybe you needed the defense to like hold this middle, but looking at this again, maybe it's just completely lost because like your copters aren't gonna benefit from it. Most of the stuff here are already like super weak, so like it's not as if it's gonna do anything. So yeah, holding it was probably the correct play, and then you can do like massive pressure on this side, which I think you do end up doing.
Yeah.
And then again, just playing way too scared on the left side. I think like you needed to like try and get damage done here. Maybe it doesn't work, but if you feel like you're already losing center, you just need to play for both sides and like hope that wins.
I have no clue what you had on the left side, and I was scared because I know you're better than me. So I was like, let's play safe until I can see something to attack, and then maybe we will think about attacking.
I mean, it's not a terrible plan. Like you remember, like I often give that advice. Like if you don't know what to do, wait for them to suicide into you. So like that's kind of what you're doing. The reason why I think it's strategically losing is because like it's very obvious now that your center is just collapsing very fast. There's no way this holds for like another 2 turns, and then everything dies, and you lose all the cities and that threat. So like at that point, like if you just let that happen without counterplay, you lose anyway. And if you're gonna lose anyway, then you might as well try something than try nothing. Because it's more fun, but also like maybe you win.
We are back. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, so my turn. Pop my power. Love to see it. It's especially good because you don't have your super up yet. So all the damage you're gonna be doing this turn isn't gonna be hitting like that painful Lash super defense. So just start cleaning up your copters with my AA. And again, like because I have a tower and a copter, like 140 attack I think is a luck roll, but against a 90 HP copter, or like just any copter that's been taking chip damage, it's gonna kill more often than not. It doesn't kill here, but you know, we have infantry to fix that. Infantry are OP as always. Just start capturing everything back. We start capturing all the cities. clean up more of your infantry, and then like we just have this really nice Congo line going on, which looks really hard to attack into. I'm gonna be getting a bunch of free cities. Feels really good. Again, still pumping out those copters. We really want those copters. Very important. Here, I felt like I understood already, like, this ball is probably gonna kill me the next turn. So I might as well just do as much damage as I can this turn to, like, slow it down, weaken as much infantry, and, like, slow down your push, make it hard for you to capture. Hopefully that slows you down enough for, like, this to do work. And then, like, on the left side, like, I realized, okay, this can't possibly count for all your units, so you must have something here. You have 2 tanks at least, which will overwhelm this, so I just run away. And then I'm relying on center to win at this point.
Oh, wow. We are back.
Alright, so on your turn, you pop your super. Fairly expected. The problem now is, like, because on the left side you were too scared, you're only getting value on the right side, and then, like, 2 fronts, you're not able to make it work. This is basically the counter to, like, CO's superpower relies on the basis of hitting things, right? So this is most of your tier 4, this is Max, this is Eagle, this is Slash. Because your power is reliant on your things hitting their things, it's very easy to run into a situation where the counter is they let you hit their army on one side and then they don't let you hit stuff on the other side. And you don't get to maximize the value basically. That's also why the global damage is really good, because there's no counter, except if you're Sasha. You finally get your tower at turn 14, not really what you want to see versus Andy. But you were doing good work on the right side, like cleaning everything up, just killing all of my things. Correct play. Like my plan obviously didn't work out. Maybe I should have pulled back, but hindsight is 2020. I'm not too sure about like keeping that tax in the center. I think like at this point, you should recognize you've lost center. You want to preserve as many units as possible for like the inevitable defense when I start pushing into this side. So like throwing away units piecemeal here makes it really easy for me to push into your HQ. And then yeah, Copter and Copter turn are good against Andy. Get a medium tank, okay. Not the worst, but I already have an artillery and copters, which will kind of like kill the medium tank. And then I get a second AA middle because I start recognizing like, okay, I have 1 center for sure. There's no way you come back. So all I need to do now is make sure that my push in the center can't be easily stopped. Easiest way to do that is to just get artillery, get AA, and use your infantry mass to push down. And yeah, just start cleaning up. I'm also like starting to reinforce more units here, completely just sacking the left side and the right side. And I think I can commit these builds to like the defense, like trying to like because I don't want my base to die before yours does. Like I start having to like, commit units here, but almost everything is still like in the center, and like that's where the majority of my blob is happening. So on your turn, again, your tanks are playing very scared, but it's very close to my base now, so kind of understandable. You do get a nice artillery snipe. I didn't expect that. Like, do you have a medium tank? I generally don't expect it when I'm playing as Andy to like have to fight a medium tank. Usually, I'm the one buying it, so pretty good by you. Like, it takes away the main answer. The problem ends up being, I think, like my copters make your medium tank's life super miserable.
Yeah. Because you got
That's
so
what
many
happens.
things.
Yeah, copters just start chipping away. I think I even use tanks here. Yeah, I just start using tanks to counter it. Everything just starts hitting it, and then like it's just very very sad life. It can't really do anything. and it's also trapped. Like it can't hit anything. So this is why like I keep saying heavy tanks need light vehicles as support. If you had like a bunch of tanks in AA here, I can't do this trap. But if you don't, then they get surrounded and then they just cry in their corner. And then, yep, we begin marching down the middle with all our units.
And now
And
I
then I drop a
resign.
stealth here.
I
Yeah,
resign
you resign
because
here. The stealth has no answer, right?
yeah, stealth
Um,
are broken. They should be banned. They should not exist.
yeah, on this map, I think stealth should be banned because the issue is like winning center becomes too strong. Because the answer to stealth is fighter, right? But the only fighter you can get is from the center. If you don't get it from the center, you get it here. Well, first of all, if you can't build from the center because like AA are blocking it off, or like a fighter is threatening it, there's no way like this fighter can get there either, right? It has to pass through the center, right? So like winning the center becomes so strong because like of stealth, partly like all the threats we talked about earlier. But then the stealth makes any counterplay on the sides really really hard to pull off. So yeah, stealth absolutely should be banned on this map. I'm hoping to see that change. Um, yeah, this position like we're probably in like a damage race scenario, assuming like I don't build a stealth and you don't resign. You're racing to like take my tower and kill this base and airport before I can like take your airport or port here and then threaten your HQ, threaten the things here. So like it's still maybe a game slightly favoring me, but
I think
it's hard to tell like if tactically I will mess up.
I think you already won before the stealth because the moment I lost the center, I lost the game because I dedicated so much unit in the center. So losing the center really cost me the game, and as you said, I was too scared on the left, so I barely did stuff. So my only good push I liked was on the right side. Do you have anything else to add up?
No, I think that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you very much to come by again. I cannot wait for our next video together. You are doing great job. I learned a lot. And this is funny because since our assassin game, probably 1 month ago, I believe, the video just got out, but we recorded it like back in March. Since that video, I win, I should say, 85% of my games in Assassin map. And this is because of you, man. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
I really
Uh,
learned a lot from that game, and I really destroyed. The other day, I fought a like MMR 1000, and it was Ark, I was Javier, and I was actually shocked to beat him because he had a good victory loss ratio. So I was like, what? What just happened? I am like 900 MMR and I beat a 1000 with better stats than me. What is going on?
and yeah, like it's partly like just down to like the openings and like these theories that I'm teaching, right? Because like I'm, tactically speaking, right? I'm not really that good at tactical player. Like there are 900 players who can probably beat me if it's just down to tactics, right? How I win most of my games is just I understand the strategic ideas of a map. I execute on it somewhat consistently, not always consistent, right? And then like I keep refining that process until like I have the opening down. Like I know the best 10 moves of every game, like on every map. And then if you don't know the correct answer, then I will just get such a huge advantage. It doesn't matter, right? Like if you're a better tactical player, because at the end of the day, 10 tanks don't lose to 5 tanks. It never happens, right? Unless you're Eagle, right? And then it's just equal. So like if you can win from the opening, why not? Like some players, you say it's a bit overrated to like win from the opening, but and that's true against like other strong players, but most of the players you're gonna find are not that strong. So win by day 10, just do the right opening.
So anyway, I hope guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. And thank you again, KANTBEI.
Yep, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.